Hi everyone, Tara Doyle-Enneking here with the Puyallup-Sumner Chamber of Commerce. And I'm here today with Shawn Manley. Many of you know him as a local business owner. He's worked with a lot of nonprofits. But today he's got his FEMA certified disaster plan chaplain hat on. And so, Shawn Manley, welcome. I'm very anxious to dive into our conversation today.
Yeah, it's good to be with you and good to be with everybody here. So, I am a FEMA certified disaster response chaplain. I've been on deployment on several occasions, and I've been in a number of crisis events, and so we just thought this would be a good time to take an opportunity to talk a little bit about crisis. Not necessarily like disaster preparation or resources, but really about the relational, psychological, spiritual impacts of being through a major crisis.
I think that's very timely. I think the Chamber has been working overtime on those hardcore resources. Often in a time like this of crisis, that is what seems the most important, and it is at the very beginning. How are you going to pay? How are you going to pay your employees? How do we need to isolate? But rarely have we been discussing what's happening in your heart, what's happening with your stress levels, and so it's pretty unique and fortunate that we've got someone like Shawn Manley who's had that experience, and so we're going to dive into that a little bit today. So
yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
So I guess really interesting to me, I didn't know this about you, and so I would be very interested in learning how you ended up becoming FEMA certified in this arena.
It was on a whim. It feels like crisis is something that I'm made for. Not that I want to cause it or be a part of its inception, but in responding when things get broken, I actually feel like things become more clear. So the processes become easier, everything becomes prioritized easier. I'm a fairly flexible, pliable person in general, and anybody who's been around crisis, if you talk to any EMTs, paramedics, they've got their plan, but there's also about a half dozen contingencies. And so being pliable, being flexible, those are all things that come naturally for me. And so about 10 years ago, my wife and I and two of our good friends went through a course to become FEMA certified chaplains. Okay. It taught us skills that I never thought that I would really need, or for instance, delivering a death notice was not something that was on my radar. But understanding the process behind addressing bad news, or how to draw out of somebody the difficult conversation that needs to be had. Those are the sorts of skills that we learn in chaplaincy, and just to be with somebody. We've talked a lot about the social distancing that's happening right now.
The social distancing, you're exercising right now?
Here. Yep, that's right. Not breathing on each other. But social distancing has actually been happening for a long time. We're having a hard time being relationally proximate. So we have physical separations, but how are we actually with somebody in a moment of crisis? Because we're really made to be with people. And we're checking ourselves to see, well, am I crazy? Are they crazy? Is this crazy? Am I going to run out of resources? Do I need to conquer somebody else and take their resources, plunder it for myself, and hoard for myself, and I need 15 packages of toilet paper from Costco or whatever else it is. That primal urge to provide for our own families becomes very visceral. And so how do we get back to kind of sanity? How do we respond appropriately? That really comes from our relational, proximate relationships. So that's what we're going to talk about.
All right. Kind of going back to some of your experience too. So you became a chaplain kind of just prior to the Ebola breakout. Do you want to talk a little bit about your...
2010 when I became a disaster certified chaplain, and in 2014 I was in Liberia. I was actually running a nonprofit designed to bring injured children in from other countries for medical attention. Okay. Two of our patients came from Liberia. It's a little tiny country about the size of Western Washington, and about 4 million people, so it's actually similar in population, similar in size, and we brought two different Liberian burn patients, children. This little boy that we brought back was 9 years old when we brought him back to Liberia, and he had burns over about 30% of his body. And that was about 7 months into the Ebola outbreak in Western Africa. So I was there during the crisis. I was there meeting with medical workers. I actually stayed in the medical compound where the primary hospital was for the country. And so I got to know a number of the people there, including Dr. Sacra, who was one of the 3 Americans who was diagnosed with Ebola and flown back to the U.S. for treatment. But when you go through a mass, a humanitarian crisis like that, a communal-wide event like that, it does change your perspective. Just like this will change the perspective for a lot of people going forward. Things in our minds will sear in, and we'll think differently. Now the question is, will we behave differently? because they do behave differently. My friends and my family members that are in Liberia do behave differently today because of what they've experienced.
Right.
And that's a big part of my question today is how do we use this opportunity, this moment of crisis will become an opportunity for us to become better humans, better citizens, better relationally, better family members, and all the rest.
Yeah, we're definitely already seeing that, I would say. So I guess I would imagine you would be able to talk some of our viewers through, I guess, that cycle of crisis and sort of the stages that we may all be experiencing.
Yeah. And it's very different based on how the crisis is caused. You know, we live in a Lahar zone.
Right.
So we're prepared for when the sirens go off and the mud wall of 60 feet comes high and wipes out houses in the valley. I don't mean to scare anybody, but everybody knows like every 5 or 10,000 years. It's going to happen. It could be 10,000 years, but we are practicing for that. And the major difference between that and this is that will actually be something you can see. It's tangible, it's palpable, it is visceral, like you can touch it. This is more like the boogeyman. Like, how do you stop the boogeyman? The thing you can't see, the thing that people are suspicious of, that they have varying degrees of, we'll call it superstition. We dealt with a lot of superstition around the Ebola virus. We're dealing with some superstition around this now, just because it's not the right information, the right application of information. And so people are trying something rather than doing nothing. So you asked about the cycle of how you deal with this. Well, regardless of how it starts, in general, in crises, people tend to overreact or underreact. And then if they underreact in the beginning, they're actually likely to overreact at some point. And that can be a mob mentality. It can be, well, everybody's grabbing toilet paper again, so I need to hoard for myself. But responding appropriately kind of balances that. Well, there is a level of preparation that's required. So in our house, we have a few things that help us to be able to weather the storm if something happened with our water supply or something like that. We have a 55-gallon drum of water, and we're prepared somewhat for something to happen. But we're not going to overreact by trying to take somebody else's water.
Right.
Like, we're not trying to get to that point where we're taking something away from somebody else. So how do you respond appropriately? The biggest advice that I have for somebody responding appropriately is writing out what you're going to do before you do it. Because sometimes when you write something down, you say, or even think about writing it down, it's like, I'm not actually going to do that.
Yeah.
Not only would that look really weird if somebody videotaped me doing that, but that's just not the right ethical thing to do.
Right.
So my advice is write what you want to do down. This is an important time to kind of go back and just make things really rudimentary. Like, what are the important things that I need to do today? What can I actually accomplish and have a goal to do? And I'll tell you, Tara, a big question that I'm asking out of this is, what will life look like on the other side? Can I start to envision how I will think differently about the resources and the relationships that I have in order to maybe be better prepared, but also be more relationally connected?
Right. Oh, like I said, I think that's so organically happening already. I'm so proud of the work the Chamber's doing right now and really feeling the value of the community coming together more than I've ever. So again, I know we'll have plenty of silver linings once we can get through all of this together, but I like your advice.
We will.
Yeah, and we will, absolutely. But I do like the advice of being intentional with kind of the plan for the day, and just also some of the backup plans, because we don't know, what level of crisis we're at now and how much further it's going to go.
Yeah, we don't know.
And we need to probably think a little bit about that, but not overthink it either.
So the saying we have in chaplaincy work is that flexible is too rigid.
Yeah.
So you need to be really pliable in these moments. So even something as simple as Tara and I had made this appointment at 10 o'clock this morning.
Yes.
And then she got new information about all the things that are happening in the chambers across the state. And she said, hey, can we move to 12? And you just flex. Like, this is a really important time to flex with your resources, to flex with your time, to do as much as you can, to not think I have to do things. Some people will talk about like the habits and patterns and the rhythms that we have. This is not a time to stick to all your same patterns. This is a time to be able to be distinguished and clear and very concise with whatever energy you have, so you don't burn energy. You know what it feels like to a lot of people? And I was talking to my trainer about this morning. It feels like when the cortisol levels build up, the stress hormones are going on for a long time, it feels like walking in mud. And so for a lot of people, they get frustrated making the decisions because they can't do all of the same things they used to do. You certainly can't all go to work like you used to go to work.
Right.
So how do you set patterns and rhythms and disciplines that help you to maintain a healthy balance of taking care of your body, not self-medicating? That's not something we want to do. Some people will turn to drugs or alcohol to help them feel better. This is not a time for that. It's time to be sober and sober-minded and to be able to get through this as a community.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that advice. So a lot of folks are also probably feeling rather isolated. They've been sent home from work, and probably a large part of their social interaction took place at work. So whether they're home by themselves or now faced with, family members and kids at home, what do you have to say about sort of that isolation and just, I guess, learning to kind of have a new system at home even?
Right. So I'll preface it with my disclaimer that I'm not a psychologist, that this isn't my specialty, but there are things that, I'll use a word again, disciplines. The disciplines will help us to maintain some sense of sanity and perspective through this. And I think they fall into some really distinct categories. So, I actually have an alliteration that I've developed that helps us think in categories of how we have these disciplines. But the discipline of family. How are you intentionally spending time having conversations with your family? Being at home around a meal, being on the phone with those that you can't be in person. I can't see my mom right now. I can't see my in-laws. And so I'm setting a discipline of being with my family, being relationally proximate. Faith. This is a great time to dig into faith roots, whether you have them or don't have them. A lot of people are asking those faith questions. I think it's a good time if you have scripture you can read, or you can spend some time reflecting. I have friends who are atheists, and they at least understand the spirituality of gardening.
Right.
So however you can connect in faith, then I encourage you to explore that. Explore what your heart is feeling like you're trying to fulfill right now in your faith roots. Food. Food is critical. People don't understand the important connection between your stress levels, your responses, and the food that you eat. Again, not a psychologist, I'm also not a dietitian, but I can tell you that if you maintain a healthy eating balance, you're going to have a lot more energy and you're going to feel a lot better about yourself. You'll sleep better. But not eating junk food, not medicating with something that's going to make you feel better for a moment and then let you down in the long term. For me, this really means I stay away from carbohydrates. So we know in my house, like, carbohydrates are the enemy, because I'll have a sugar, spike and then a crash. And that's the worst thing that you can have when you're experiencing crisis. Fun. Do not forget to have fun. And there are ways to do that. Friends, connect with your friends. So again, social distancing, to me, it's the wrong word. We're talking about being physically separated, but being relationally proximate. We had a problem with our friends and relationships before this whole crisis. We were on our 4th year of a loneliness epidemic, like declining life expectancy in the United States. We're so connected digitally, but we're so relationally impoverished. So how do we get back into relationship with our friends? Maybe that requires reconciliation. Maybe it's a great time to apologize to somebody. Maybe it's the time to extend the olive branch and make peace. Finances, okay, so this is one that gets really frustrating for people because they're saying, well, I don't have income. Or I might go bankrupt, or I might, go into foreclosure. All of these worries. Here's what I encourage you to do. Just don't ostrich. Don't stick your head in the ground expecting the problem to go away. Write out what you can. So this is a great time to, again, get your journal out, get your paper out. If you work off an Excel spreadsheet or you have some sort of financial management plan, go over the numbers, do what you can, and then make sure you put it aside. And don't let your mind keep going back to that, because that will rob you of important energy that you need right now. And this is going to sound like a strange one. These are my alliterations, right? So I can share.
Absolutely.
The last one's fire. We're really good at getting around a fire. So if at home you can get around a small fire, we have a wood stove in my house. I also have an outdoor fire. Candles are actually really therapeutic. So I just encourage people to take, fire seems to slow us down. And sometimes when we can slow down, decompress a little bit, take perspective, that helps us to get out of all of the fray of the energy that's going on. I mean, the media's not really helping right now, right?
Right.
So unplug from your TV. Don't watch all the news. I can tell you already, the news is going to tell you that there's a virus out there. And unplug from that. Go into something that's just a little slower pace. I really encourage you not to spend time watching a lot of Netflix binge watching. This is not going to help either. But spend time reflecting and around a fire, sharing stories. Be relationally proximate when you can. Anyways, that's my
And you're not a psychologist. I don't know. I think you did pretty darn good there. The relational proximity we have is making it even more difficult for me to see who's logging in or if there's questions. I don't know if you can see, but I appreciate it.
I haven't seen any questions yet.
Okay, well, great. Well, we appreciate you out there. We can see that you are, that's wonderful.
And if you do have questions, pop them in there and we'll do our best to answer them.
Yep, absolutely. So something else I wanted to kind of bridge this conversation into that is, again, a silver lining coming out of all of this, as you and I, the city, there's many other stakeholders in the area that have definitely been kind of grappling with, what's Puyallup's identity, what's our branding, who are we, and really, wanting to put some effort behind that so that it's tangible and we can all march to the same tune on it. Well, something like this has just brought everything to the surface and to a head, and has really given us an opportunity to go after that. Do you want to talk a little bit about what's coming from that?
Yeah. As a small business owner, I think this is the time that a lot of business owners are going to be linking arms. Like, we're really going to have to lean into each other. We're leaning into the Chamber and a few other strategic nonprofits to help us to get through this.
Yep.
In order to brand that, we actually created the wearepuyallup.com movement.
Great.
And it just went live last night, so we have a website.
Yep.
You can put your email in there. We don't have a lot of information out yet. But our goal in that is to get you as much information about what happens in the city so that we can keep our city moving forward. When the small businesses of a community fail, when small businesses go away, the soul starts to die. I mean, there's really this thing where goods and services, if they are outsourced to international corporations, not only does it create problems in the supply chain, right?
Right.
Like right now, our problem is that we're dependent on things coming from overseas that can't come overseas.
Right.
But we also are relationally connected in how we exchange in goods and services. And this is a personal passion for mine. This is why I became a business owner in the city of Puyallup, because I believe it's important to do business with our neighbors and our friends and our family and have money moving locally as many times as possible. So thanks for letting me share about that. But yeah, you can go to the website, go to wearepuyallup.com, put your email address in there, and we will be happy to share more information as it becomes available.
And something, I guess, to be of interest to the businesses listening right now. So this movement, this now branding, we have already started to speak to marketing firms and sign companies as well. What we're hoping for are sandwich boards that are throughout the community that are essentially, we are Puyallup, we are open for business. And granted, your opening for business might look a lot different right now. You may be doing takeout curbside, and as you know, there's orange cones that are starting to go out on the street yesterday, today, in front of those restaurants that are open to reserve a parking spot. So I think that's a great Puyallup Main Street Association, City of Puyallup initiative that we're helping implement. But these sandwich boards and or signs in the window are also something you're going to start to see. And it's just really going to unify our city together, and again, maybe show people that we are open. And then please just be good at communicating what your new open looks like. What's your new norm? Because we at the Chamber have a resource page that we're really trying to stay up to date on. What are your hours? What are your specials? How are you, working with your members or customers, clients in this kind of period right now?
So Craig Sorensen.
Craig Sorensen is the guy that we had been talking to about signs, and he's generous. He's definitely willing to make in-kind contributions to this effort as well. There's hard costs that we're trying to get sponsorship for. There may be a small cost to the businesses, but I think it'll be worthwhile to have these signs all over Puyallup, and just get that message out there.
I agree, and some people will think, well, I can't go out. I don't want to go, out of my home. And I understand if you're either, medically infirm, if you have a respiratory issue, or if you're over 60, they want you to stay home. But this is a great time to go out and buy gift cards, buy takeout. The restaurants are on the front lines of being really beat up.
Right.
And we own a property where several restaurants occupy. So Generous Corner, right across from Anthem and the condominiums there. We have two vendors, so Vigo and Fat Zach's, and these are just small business, first-time business owners who are doing everything they can to stay afloat and to serve their community. And they've never, nobody's put a performer together to plan for this.
Right.
So the government's going to shut you down for a week or two or three or who knows how long.
Right.
And so there are a lot of businesses like that are trying really hard. So I'm just asking for our community to get behind them and support them.
I can think of two that we just celebrated grand openings with: Electric Coffee in Sumner, and then Perry's Cocktail Bar. And it's just I want to touch base with both and make sure that if they are offering services, what can we do, because it's a long road to open. It costs a lot of money to open. If you really haven't been open long enough to have revenue or any reserves, that's devastating. So
Christina's been at this for 3 years for Electric Coffee.
Yeah.
And then you got Ron and Laura at Perry's who've worked for well over a year to get open.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
You know, they
get to open for a week.
Both businesses have incredible products. They've got great staff.
Yeah.
They've had to go right to laying off most of their staff.
Right.
So yeah, as much as we can, please support your local businesses.
Yeah, maybe Perry's will offer a virtual Zoom cocktail hour where we can bring our own cocktails, but pledge to make
I just said we're not
a gift
supposed to drink
card.
as much.
Well,
just don't medicate with it. Yeah,
I'm
you can
not
have a
medicating.
cocktail.
This
All
is
right.
yes. No, yeah, we can get creative. That's the other thing that's been really fun. I could see us moving to a virtual wake up next week. I've been on so many conferences, did not have a Zoom account, had to host a big teleconference yesterday with a few glitches, but I think it went off okay. But I can see how wake ups could actually happen that way next Thursday. So we'll experiment with that and see what that looks like.
Yeah, no, we are Puyallup.com. We're going to be working on a lot of the creative solutions. For instance, I didn't even know that Cascade's right down the street here, Andy and AJ, they're actually just completely focused on Crowler grills and growlers right now.
Yeah,
and they're doing great.
They can shift to that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good to know. We'll have to put a post out that, and you're hearing it right here too. So I know we're limited on time. Just I guess right at this moment, what does support look like for you right now? You're already doing something on a grand scale for the city. Is there what other callings do you have right now, or how are you taking care of you?
How am I taking care of you? So I'll start with that.
I know how you're taking care of me in the chamber. He's our little Obi-Wan Kenobi that comes in every so often with his prophetic
encouragement.
Offering encouragement, absolutely.
So yesterday morning I was exercising. I get together with Move more often. They can't practice in their gym, so we go to the park and spread out and we work out and use lots of hand sanitizer and Clorox and Lysol and all that. But we're still getting our workouts in. I also go home and I chop wood. Like, that's the most therapeutic thing in the world for me to do, is splitting wood, which sounds crazy. I smoked a brisket last night.
Yeah.
Like, cooking is really important. Yeah. Find ways to bring people together. As far as productive ways, what I'm trying to do mostly, Tara, is encourage others to have perspective. First of all, ask the question, what does life look like once we're through this? Because we're going to get through this. So start to envision, how does this look for us on the other side? It would be a fear of mine to come out on the other side and still be socially distancing.
Right. Yeah.
Like, this is the genuine fear that I have, is that we're going to see the loneliness epidemic in this nation and in our city continue to skyrocket. And now people have an excuse. I need to keep away because there's a virus out there that might get me. But we need to be connected. We need to be in relationship. We need to be well grounded in our community. A couple of really practical things I like to offer that I'm trying to do and I'm trying to get others to do. Garden. Like, this weather.
Yeah.
This is amazing.
Right.
So take an opportunity to get some dirt on your fingernails, plant a tree, plant some seeds. If you're concerned about not having enough, this is a great season for you to start preparing. Put up some preserves. We make pickles. I've done well over 1,000 jars of pickles in my lifetime. And this is a great time for you to start thinking about those disciplines that will, give you a new practice in gardening, kombucha, whatever you want to make, go make something. Reading, I mentioned reading scriptures, but reading a novel. The worst thing in the world is to start to self-medicate and go down the road of watching like the binge Netflix stuff.
Yeah.
So this is not the time to turn on The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
Like, this is the worst.
This is not the time for The Walking Dead.
Don't do that. Like, literally, hear me. If you hear anything from today's live, do not go watch The Walking Dead for 6 seasons. But go read a novel. If you've been dreaming about a business, maybe you're unemployed right now.
Yeah.
Maybe you got laid off. Maybe you got let go, whatever it is. Start writing a business plan. And if you need help with that, reach out to me. I'd be happy to help you with that. We've got other resources that can help you to start writing your plan. And I would love to see some businesses incubated out of this crisis. Exercising, so the yard work, finding virtual workouts, finding ways to get personal training, maintaining that distance, and yet getting your physical body to keep moving. And then connecting, I mentioned, start a fire, and a legal one, right? But, go out, build a fire pit, do something that connects. If you're already in your household, if one of you's got a coronavirus infection, you probably all got it. But you might as well sit around the fire and toast some s'mores.
Yep.
And then, I think letter writing and cards is going to be really critical.
Yep.
We have a lot of people who can't leave their homes. This reminds me now, I need to write a letter to my mom. So I usually just stop by and see her a couple times a month. I can't do that, so I need to write her a card.
Yeah. My granddaughter, I just found out, is into pen pals now because they're all at home, and so they are handwriting letters.
Perfect.
And I thought I better go get my little cards because I'm going to go handwrite them back. So
that's good.
That's a beautiful thing to come back. Don't you
I grew up with pen pals.
Yeah.
Like, that was one of the most fantastic feelings in the world when you waited 4 weeks and you got a letter in the mail.
Yeah.
I love that. So,
Pretty cool.
and then just finally make something. If you're good at making something, and on this side of the infection and this where we're at today, you can't give it to somebody. Just start storing things up. If you can crochet, if you can make. I mentioned candles earlier. Some people make candles.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of YouTube videos out there to show you how to do things. The problem is that most of those people who watch those don't actually do anything.
Right.
So if you want to learn a new skill, if you want to go make something, watch the videos and then make a discipline. Write it down and say, I will make these things. Because it's going to be really critical for us coming out of this to be able to share the things that we have for one another.
Yeah, I'll add one more thing to that. I need to catch up on city council meetings, so I'm going to do that. So if you've never felt engaged with your city, what a great time to go home and look at the archive videos.
Walking Dead, city council meetings. Yeah, okay.
Hey, get engaged. No, dude, I think these are all such great tips. I just, as I'm thinking out loud here, can see that you will now be added onto our resource page. I think people are going to want to reach out to you. You might want to let them know what your email is, but we will have his information. I want to take some of these tips that he has and just keep adding them to our resource page that we've created designated for this time period.
So you can sign up for the emails that we're putting together for wearepuyallup.com.
Yes.
And if you want to get a hold of me, just email me at Shawn, SHAWN, as in Jeremy, Manley, MANLEY, @gmail.com. So that's ShawnJManley@gmail.com, and I'm here to serve. So however I can help.
Awesome. So, what were a couple of the tips you said? Let's prepare. Let's connect.
Have some fun.
Have some fun.
Yeah, re-explore your faith. Take care of the things you can, like your finances, as far as you can, and then make sure you just push them aside because you can't solve every problem right now.
All right. Thanks for tuning in today.
You.
This was a wonderful episode that will be, it'll be live on Chamber Chatter Monday.
Get out and enjoy the weather.
Yeah, seriously. All right. Thanks, everyone.